Hi, I'm teacher Eric, and I'm an online consultant for iTutor, where I teach English as a second language to Asian students, mostly in China and Taiwan. And I've heard there's students from Japan as well, but as of this point, I don't know if I've had any yet. If I have, I don't know. Well, today I am going to teach you four things that I was doing wrong when I was teaching online English. So I'm going to go to a preloaded session. And maybe this is something you don't know how to do, where you can practice different things on the Tutor Meet Plus. So you first want to, let me go ahead and switch the view here. You first want to bring up open your Google Chrome browser, and again, I have all these tabs that open up whenever I open up a new Google Chrome window. So if anyone knows how to fix that, that would be great, and I would greatly appreciate it. So you'll want to go. So when Google Chrome opens up, you'll want to go to your iTutor portal, open it up, and then you get this page. You log in, and you'll get a message. Just click OK, and um, if you go to training, you'll see a bunch of stuff. There's actually two forms of the Tutor Meet. There's Tutor Meet Practice and Tutor Meet Plus. What I'm going to do today could apply to either one, because some sessions I guess are taught through Tutor Meet Practice, but so far, or the Tutor Meet not the Tutor Meet Practice, they're taught through Tutor Meet, which I'm understanding is an older system, but I've only used two times since I've been with iTutor, and I've been with iTutor since January 14th. So, and let's see, March 14th will be 2 months. So I guess it's almost 2.5 weeks or something like that from the date I'm recording this. So anyway, to access, you can actually access, you can actually bring up the Tutor Meet Plus and Tutor Meet Practice, so that you can practice using the whiteboard and different things. So if you click on, I'm going to go through Tutor Meet Plus. So if you click here, it'll pop up a window. It'll pop up this thing that says Tutor Meet Plus, and it'll ask if you want to continue practice. Go ahead and say this. You may have to allow pop-ups to get this. But yeah, it opens up a new tab, and then you get this screen, which is basically our classroom. So we're going to pretend that we're in a lesson, and I'm going to go through four things that I did wrong. The first one that I did wrong is I did too much correcting. Um, let's just take an example here. Let's go to a slide, and let's see if any of these slides have a bunch of words on them. Maybe not, since this is kind of your instructional videos. Well, let me just go to, I'll just go to one at random. Well, let's say it's, this one looks like a lot. So there's a lot of words on this page. So when I was having students read things aloud, every time they would make a mistake while reading, I would, basically I would try to correct everything. That is a terrible idea, because one, we only have a limited amount of time with the students. Most of the classes I teach are 25 minutes. Excuse me. So yeah, they're mostly 25. So we don't have all the time in the world to correct every single thing that they do. So you want to be selective, like maybe the main ideas. Or like the main vocabulary, and maybe they're reading something, there's a word that appears several times and they miss it, so help with pronunciation like that. But again, be selective. We only have a limited amount of time, so I wish I knew that when I first started, because there were times where I couldn't make it through all the slides because I was correcting every little detail that they did wrong. So again, be selective. The second thing I did was doing wrong was I would interrupt them when they would read, and and I would tell them, how you say it like this, or you would say it like that. So yeah, I would do this, and I came to understand that that's actually not a good idea. The better idea is, while they're reading, let's say they make a mistake that you want to help them with, maybe highlight the word. So, like highlight here where it says choose. And then, after they're done reading the paragraph, like, I usually draw an arrow kind of like this. I don't know if you can see it. Let me zoom in. So yeah, you see how I drew an arrow and then I phonetically write the word. So like, let's say they miss consultant. Like, that's what I am, consultant. So I kind of type it down here about how it sounds the best you can. Consultant, consultant, and then I work with them on that word. Usually, how I do it is, I'll go consultant and have them repeat it, and each time I'll go a little bit faster. Consultant, and then they'll say it again. The third time, consultant, and then they'll do it again. And then the next time, I actually go consultant, consultant, consultant. Say it 3 times. That way they say it 3 times because repetition to learn a language is very key. And then after they do it 3 times, I will say one more time, and then say consultant. And then and of course, you want to praise them. Yay, good job, well done. Good, or give them thumbs up, or use your Manicam. If you use Manicam, maybe put a smiley face on your screen or something like that. And you can use, and also we have a clap icon. If you see my mouse, it's right up here. You just click that, and sometimes there we go. They're getting an ovation or whatever you call it. So that was my second thing that I was doing wrong. So the first thing was I was doing too much correcting. The second thing was I was interrupting them as they read. And the third thing I was doing wrong was I was giving answers. That's probably the teacher in me, maybe, because it's been a while, but I did teach English as a second language in South Korea for a year, and I also taught English to when I went to seminary. There was a friend of mine who went to some classes with me. I became friends with her, and I don't know why she asked me this day, but she basically asked me, "Hey, my husband needs help learning how to converse in English. Would you consider teaching him?" And I was kind of shocked, surprised by her request, but I was like, "Sure, why not?" So she said she could. I mean, I wasn't expecting a payment. I would have done it for free, but her wording was, I can't pay you anything because we're very low on money, but I can provide you a free lunch whenever you come over and do it. So I was like, wow, free, Asian food is one of my favorite foods. So I was eager to, I would, if it was me, I wouldn't have minded meeting with him every day to teach him, but they only wanted to do it once a week. Maybe they just didn't want to feed me every day. I don't know, but yeah, for whatever reason, I love Asian food. I love trying new things. I mean, I might tell a story some about how in my first week I tried 2 of the most unusual foods that even most Koreans don't ever try, and I did that in my first week when I learned Korea. So maybe I'll do another video on that at some point. But yeah, I would just give the answer. Like, let's say they weren't getting it. Like, let's say I'm gonna open up I'm gonna load a new page. If you don't know how to make a new page, right here where my mouse is, there's a little plus sign. If you click that, yeah, you get an option called More, and then you go down to the second one. It says Add Blank Page, and it opens up a blank page. So let's say they were reading, the cow is brown. Very simple word. So they're reading that. And let's say they misspoke and said brown. Maybe they said brown or something like that. They pronounce it with a W. So I would just say brown, or maybe they didn't even know how to say brown. That's a better one. They did not know how to say brown. So I would just say, they would be reading the cow is, and they would struggle, and I just go brown, and then they would say it. That's actually not a good idea, I learned. You want to I've heard you kind of want to bait and hook them, if that makes sense. It's kind of like, if you're familiar, I'm not a fisherman, but I do know enough about fishing to know that, if you're fishing and you start catching a fish, if you pull right away, the fish is going to go away, you'll never catch it. But if you kind of bait it a little bit, drag it along, eventually you should catch it and reel it in. So yeah, So yeah, so they misspoke and said brown. You can go buh, and then have them, give them little pieces, and if they start saying buh and they're still not getting bruh, bruh, and then if they're still not getting brow, brow, just give them little pieces at a time, and hopefully eventually they'll get it. I mean, if they don't get it eventually, yeah, go ahead and give them the whole thing, brown, brown. So that's, one way to correct when they're having trouble missaying a word. Now let's go to, I'll go and give an example. The syntax is awesome. So maybe they misspoke here as syntax. Maybe he said, oh, and I misspelled it. Yeah, syntax. I can't spell. I'm not a good speller, just so you know. Syntax is awesome. So maybe they're like, or I don't know. However they did it, they misspoke it. So I usually draw an arrow down here so they know the word. I highlight the word like this. Let me scroll a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. Good. That looks a lot better. So then I, take them down here and I start, I phonetically write it. And so, I also point out you kind of struggle with that word. Let's work on this word a little bit so that, you're not saying you got it wrong. I'm not coming out and saying you got it wrong. I'm just saying, let's work on this word a little bit. I think that sounds better than just saying, oh, you got it wrong. So, you phonetically, you give a little bits and pieces, and like try and phonetically write it as best as you can. So, sen, and see if they can get it. If they don't get it, after that, add a little bit more. Ta, and then X. I'm not sure how to do the X at the end. Syntax. Maybe it's like that, CKS. So syntax, and then again earlier I did the whole, I think it was about 7 times where syntax, 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 where you say it faster and then say it 3 times, somewhat faster each time. So they'll say it 3 times, and I end it, one more time. And again, give them praise when as they get it, and also come back to it later. See if they can do it later. Like let's say you go on a little bit, on the slider, you can go back to the slide and then say, how did you say this word again? See if they remember. So you do want them to remember, and if they don't, work a little bit more with them if there's time. If there's not time, it's better to leave notes and stuff like this, because one thing and this was another mistake I was making. I guess I'm going to give you 5 maybe, but I thought it was more important if they were struggling to get through to stay on the slide and work with them until they got it. Apparently, that is not a good idea, and the clients may rate you down for not getting through all the slides. So they would be struggling. I would stay maybe too long on a slide and not get through the material. If they're struggling for a while, work with them a little, but make some notes instead, and highlight the words that they missaid and try to put it phonetically. And again, be selective with this. Don't do everything, and get through the material, because they can review these slides. I did not know this. I was not aware of it at first. They can review these slides and come back, and they can watch the video too of that that they did with you. So they can do that. So get through the material, give them as much information as you can during your 25 or 45 minutes here with them, and they can review it. So the final thing I was doing wrong, I guess 5. It's funny, every time I do one of these numbered lists so far, I say a certain amount. Like this time I said there are 4 things. Well, I seem to always get a 5th thing, so I don't know why that is. But a big thing I was doing wrong, and I'm going to go why I think this is for me. I have a visual perception learning disability, which means I don't really rely too much on my sight for learning. So if you don't know what a learning disability is, it means there's something that kind of prohibits you from learning, whatever the normal way people learn is, whatever normal is. I don't really like using the word, but in this context, I don't know what else to say, so I'm going to use it here, I guess. So my learning is skewed where most of my learning, I mean, I remember someone tested me on this a long time ago, and he said, over 90% of how I learn is by how I hear. Something like, I think it's like 9% or, a very smaller amount is what I do. And then a very, very small amount is what I see. When I was in school, some, when I was in high school particularly, a lot of teachers frowned on students who would like lay their head down like this, and close their eyes because they would think you were asleep. I had some of my resource teachers, and I would explain to my teachers, this learning disability I had, and would explain, if I'm doing this, 9 times out of 10, I'm not sleeping. I'm trying to eliminate, my visual so I can enhance my hearing even more so I can get what they're talking about. So that's kind of been a challenge for me. And I wasn't using a lot of TPR. I'm still struggling with it. I think a way that I've kind of gone around this, and I've heard in a training session what I'm doing is not TPR, but it is using a prop. When you want a student to say something or you don't hear them, or you want them to repeat or whatever, you're often encouraged to, hold your hand over your ear like that. I really struggled doing that. And I went to a prop training session. The girl who led it suggested, and, if you struggle with doing that or you want to make it more fun, use a microphone, which is a prop. And, you can even play along, the syntax is awesome. Now you say it and hold the mic up to the camera. And I mean, since I started doing this has worked great. I mean, there's a lot of students who, when I would try to do this, sometimes I would never hear anything from them, and I would, try to do it a few times. Please say brown. I would do this part. Please say brown, and hold my ear up. I'd never hear them. Now I do the same thing, but instead of doing this part, hold it up to the mic. Brown. So that's what would happen. Um, Now, if you don't have a lot of visuals like props and stuff, which, I don't, I'll admit, that was another thing. I didn't have a lot of money to have a lot of props. I mean, I pretty much started at ITtutor January 14th with very little money. A lot of that's because I've struggled with depression the last few years, and it's really since 2014 where a lot of my mental health illness kicked in. I've been really unable to hold a job very long. And like and then around last June, my wife, who was mostly doing most of the work, and I was helping to take care of our daughter. She was working. Well, about 2 years ago, she started having seizures that were uncontrollable, and we've been to all kinds of doctors and stuff. And she was having them a lot of work. Like her work would schedule her maybe 3 or 4 days. I'd say 3 of those days she'd have a seizure and not be able to go, and then one, or maybe three is exaggerated. Like, let's say 2 days of those four, she would have seizures before going. She just couldn't go in because she would just be too worn out and wiped out. And then maybe one day she'd go in, she'd have a seizure there, and they'd have to send her home. Well, about last June, her job basically told her that she could no longer come in unless she could get her seizures under control, because I think it was probably because she was too much of a safety risk. So, I basically started looking for work. I had to look for work, and at the time I took a job at a local grocery store. My mental illness just really prevented me from working longer than like 2 weeks. It was just terrible, and yeah, it was just not good. So this happened last June. So I ended up going to vocational rehab. They kind of work with people with disabilities if you're not familiar with them. And they're in the United States, just so you know. I'm in the United States if I didn't say that. And they'll help work with you with disability. So I got signed up. It took about a month or two before they got back, approved of me being in voc rehab. And so they started working. They signed me up with a job agency in this area. I still work with voc rehab, but this agency I kind of work more with. In fact, I'm still with them, even though I now work at iTutor, and they help you with things. I mean, there's all kinds of things they do. It just depends on where you're at. I mean, they more provide support, like for me to come in and say how I'm at this point, how I'm doing, and other things. So I guess I'm going into a lot of other things here with this video, but anyway, So anyway, once I got signed up with this job agency, I think that was August. Fast forward to I think it was around November. We started rolling. They had me do some assessments to figure out what my strengths are, what my skills are, and also what did they do? They had me like work at Goodwill just in the back to see if I can actually work, which I was able to do, some of that day. And we started looking at jobs. I interviewed for. I was kind of looking for an office position. That's what I had decided on with my job coach. He basically we got a job interview at a local church. I was looking for something like 20 hours a week to start with, which that was what the church was offering, 20 hours a week. They were looking for an office person. I had a great interview and it went really well. And when they said they'd contact me before Thanksgiving, which is in, I think it's late November if you aren't from America. And so they didn't contact me. So the following Monday, I contacted the church and I said, "Hey, I'm kind of curious what's going on." They said, "Well, we've decided to hire someone who lived a little bit closer than you to the church," and that really irritated me because I could understand if it was something like another town or something that I lived in, but I think after I was done typing, like I looked on Google Maps and I was like something like 1.9 miles away from the church. So I'm like, that's a very stupid reason not to give me a job. In all honesty, like I said, if I lived in maybe another town, I could understand, but I didn't. I was 1.9 miles away, so I could walk there if I couldn't get there for some reason by car. So it was this time, I mentioned my job coach that, and I guess this is all going into why I looked at online ESL and how I got hired at iTutor. I was talking to my job coach, and one thing I mentioned is, I really loved teaching English when I was in Korea, but it's just hard for me to go back there because now I have a family and it's just not feasible right now to go and teach English in Korea. And he said, well, have you considered looking for online English teaching? They do it like China and some other Asian countries do online teaching through the internet now. And like, really, I was not aware of that. So I started looking, and it was something like maybe a month later, I got an interview with iTutor and a few other English languages companies. I got two offers. I ended up going with iTutor because I will admit they were a little bit slow getting back with me, but they did eventually get back with me. They answered all the questions I had, and and there was another company that considered me as well. And the main reason why I didn't go with them is because one, they were even more slower than getting back with me, and several times, I sent them a list of questions. The first time they only answered part of my question. I said, this is great, but I still have these questions. Can you please answer them? Then they answered again part of them, and the third time I never heard back. So that's kind of a large reason why I went with iTutor instead of this other company, because they were both offering me virtually the same thing. So yeah, that's what happened. That's how I ended up at iTutor. And so far, I've been here since with iTutor since January 14th. So it'll be March 14th soon. So almost 2 months. And there have been frustrations I've had, but overall, I do like iTutor. So anyway, I guess getting back to Manicam and props, I didn't have enough money for props because of all this, and so that was another reason I was struggling. I didn't have access to props because really when I started, I barely had enough money to afford a basic, like I think it was a $19 headset that was on sale at Staples, which I've actually gotten a new headset. I'll go ahead and show it to you. This one's a lot better. It was only like around $25 on sale at Staples because I ended up replacing it for two reasons. One, I decided to have the old one as a backup headset in case the new one I got ever broke or something like that. That way, if I need to teach a session, I can't get in there, I can plug in the old one. And another reason I got it is because it was hurting my ears when I was using it, because it was very small and stuff like that. I mean, it worked for the time I had it, but yeah. But anyway, if you don't have a lot of visuals, Manicam is great. And I also say it kind of caters to my learning disability. So let's go ahead and look at some things you can do with Manicam. If you you know, like you can have all these presets. You know, you can change the presets. Like, look, right now I have a what do you call it? A dancing things, and you know, I use this one for younger kids as rewards. You know, I can put, yeah, you did well. You had a cookie in a cookie jar. Yay! You know, I use this one to tell them they've done very good. This one for the songs. I use this one to sing. You know, I can go here, kind of sway back and forth. Wow, there's two of me. And you know, there's some other ones I use. I'm not going to go into because I do eventually want to do a Manicam YouTube. But yeah, that's basically what I, you know, YouTube and is very good, or not YouTube, Manicam is very good. I'll go back to this one and just show you, you know, one more thing. Well, I'm not going to really show you. I'm going to go do it fast, but you know, you know, you can get an object like a dog. Oops, I'm in the wrong thing. So like dog, you can look up. I'll look up dog. You know, I can turn my face into a dog if it'll work. Sometimes these don't work. Oh, there we go. So now I look like a dog, and here's a dog, and there's a dog. So that's just something you can do with Manicam. That's just a basic quick thing. So I do recommend Manicam for props if you're starting to get props, or you know, it's also hard for me to use them because of my learning disability. So this Manicam really accommodates for me. So anyway, that's the end of my video. I guess I went with 5 instead of 4. So again, I lied. I gave you a bonus one, whatever you want to call it. You got 5 instead of 4. So again, enjoy it. I hope you all have a good day or whatever time of day it is. Have fun, get some rest, and have a good day. Bye. Bye bye.